Okay, we're live. Welcome to the DistroBoss funding masterclass. I've got a couple of interesting guests coming on today. First one would be joining us in around 30 minutes. And here's the thing: I actually don't know who these people are. These are essentially people who have business ideas, whether they're concepts or whether they're full-on businesses. They're going to essentially be pitching their company, talking about what it is that is that they're trying to solve. Um, Kind of like a pitch in a way, but also it's more of a consultancy. We're not sitting here just to let people pitch. We want to talk to people about how they can help themselves raise the capital that they need to grow their businesses, to take it from where they are right now to actually build it up. So we're going to hear what these companies are all about. We're going to hear directly from their CEOs, their founders, and then we're going to look into what advice or guidance or just general opinion stuff that we can provide as far as what you could do to raise the money that they're looking for. So if it's 500 grand, if it's a million, if it's 50 million, like what could they be doing to position their business correctly, so that they can legally structure it so that they can actually receive the money, they can accept capital like that as an injection into their company, but also how they would then go about marketing it. Like how do they market the investment opportunity to the relevant investors that are out there? So there's going to be it's going to be kind of like a bit of a deep dive, and it's going to be very specific to that person, that company's business. So this is really the way I wanted to do this, because there's one thing where I can kind of just talk, top funnel, explain generally what is required for a capital raise or accessing money from the bank. But if I don't have a specific business to look at, some of that stuff just kind of flies over. So it's better to see exactly how we can, anchor certain strategies to specific situations. And of course, if you're listening and you've got business ideas that you're working on yourself, you're looking to raise money, whether it's through credit or whether it's through capital, whether it's through institutional money that's coming from private equity funds, from VC funds, that sort of thing, then do listen in. I don't know who we're going to speak to. My staff have actually spoken to these individuals. They've booked them into the podcast, but I actually don't know who they are. I did see some summaries of I know that there's two people, and I know that they've got, I think one business is in a SaaS product, in an AI SaaS product, so that should be interesting. And another business, the other business I think could be real estate. I don't remember, but we'll find out soon enough, and we'll be able to sort of pivot and adjust and find out what strategies will work for them. But before I do that, there's going to be some underpinning sort of information I think that you should know. Some of you may be quite seasoned when it comes to capital raising and understand everything I'm about to say, and some of you may not. But it's good to have some kind of baseline foundation principles to sort of know where I'm coming from when it comes to sales, and not sales, but the selling of investments. So getting fundraising, getting investors to buy into a business. And so you're going to have a legal structure, and you're going to have, in regards to the business entity that you have, to access whether it's credit or capital. And you're going to have a couple of other things beyond that. So if you're looking to do what's called a convertible note, or if you're looking to set up a Reg D 506C private placement, as an example, you would need some other kind of documentation in place before you actually go out there and actually start asking for money. So you need all of these things in place, and I'm going to cover some of those right now, because surely when I speak to the companies that we're going to talk to, the questions are going to be, well, first they're going to explain their business, but then it's going to very quickly pivot to, okay, so how do I get this money? Well, I'm going to say, well, first of all, you're going to need to do you have, if it's concept stage and they haven't got their business set up already, it's going to be like, you need to have an LLC. You need to have the basics, the real basics, as far as just having a bank account, which effectively is the fund that money is going to drop into. The second thing is that if you're going to go for a note, you're going to have some kind of private placement memorandum, PPM, and the note itself to actually offer the opportunity to an investor. And if it's a 506C Reg D fund, you're going to need a few more documents. It's going to cost you a pretty penny to have it made by a lawyer, so private placement and securities lawyer. So I'm going to quickly cover some of those right now in the sequence. I have a document that I'm going to share with you to sort of go through the points, because there is quite a few points, but it's good to have this information in your head, especially when we go into the conversations, right, with the businesses, because you're going to know this is where everything's anchored to, because you cannot raise money without these foundation principles in place, and you have to have them. So depending on what stage the company's at, we'll see which one becomes applicable in the conversations that I have. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm actually, before I focus on that, I've actually got a little handy whiteboard here that I'm going to try. Let me take this off the screen so you can actually see me. It's a bit of glare here, but perhaps it will work. There's two ways you're going to be looking to get money, right? Number one, it's probably better if I do it like this. You're going to either be going for credit. Can you see this? Yeah, credit or capital. Okay, now if you're going to be going for credit or capital, what's the one thing that you need in your business? What's the one thing that you need to have? You need to have a bank account, right? And we're going to call that your bucket. It's an empty bucket. You're looking to raise money. You just got this empty bucket that you need to fill up with money so that you can actually receive, so that you can grow your business, right? So the first thing you need is a bank account. But how do you get the bank account? It's a business bank account, right? So you're going to need to have yourself an LLC. So that's the first thing you need to have. LLC or a C Corp, depending on which way you want to go, but you want to have your entity set up, right? You're going to have to be able to open a bank account. You're going to need an EIN. And that's the first few things. And then essentially we can start looking into the other stuff that you have to have, like the basics of the operating agreement, the business license. I'm going to bring this on the screen now so you can see it and we can kind of go through the notes together. There you go. So I'll make that bigger for now, actually. Yeah. So you're going to need articles of organization, operating agreement, EIN number, your business license, if it's applicable. So if you're, legal, accounting, medical contractor, liquor store, something, you're going to need some things there. If required, as a business license, certificate of good standing, if it's applicable. So sometimes if you set an entity up through a registered agent, you're going to need to make sure you have that. LLC operating address. So you're going to need a business address for your bank, your business account, or your business itself, and the subsequent bank account. And obviously your personal identification. And most likely, to open up a business bank account, you're going to need an initial deposit to open up the bank. So that's the real basics to open up a business bank account, right? We'll get more complicated in just a second, because I'm about to go into how to set up a convertible note and how to get into a Reg D 506C private placement. So I'm going to show you, I'm going to simplify it using this whiteboard here. So we're going to do, it's going to be a little bit, it's going to be somewhat sequenced, trying to give you as much information before the first guy comes on. So you can see, like I said, where everything is anchored. Okay, so if that's the case, and we're looking for all these documents to be in place, if you have these, if you have your LLC, your EIN, you have your articles of incorporation, you have your operating agreement. My little doodles here. You have everything you need. Then you can actually go ahead and do one of the most basic things, which is to go and ask for credit, right? You can go to the bank, and as far as startup funding is concerned, the easiest place for you to go and get some money is knock on the door of your bank, okay? And you could simply, same bank that you opened the business account with, if you have, a solid personal credit score, your credit profile is on your personal side is pretty good. You've been awarded some credit in the past. You have low utilization on that. You've got income. You're as far as the bank is concerned, you're a stand-up person. You've paid down your debts in the past. You're not delinquent in any way. You haven't got any negatives on your report. Then you can go ahead and actually go look to get access to credit from a bank, and you can get anywhere between $50,000 to $100,000 in credit. Now I have a specific program on how to do that. I'm going to bring that on the screen now so you know where you can go should you want to. It's how to get 100K in 30 days. We have a program, I believe it's normally $497. It might be at $197 right now. There should be a discount at the moment, but that's available. It's essentially a recipe for how to get to 100,000 plus in credit cards, business credit, and then potentially a combination of business lines of credit on top of that, where you can kind of shoot to like 500,000. But that's really the first direction you want to go, just to give yourself some financial breathing room to be able to conduct the next stage. And that's the next stage is generally where you want to upgrade and start looking at how you're going to get the millions in? How do you get significant amounts of money in to your business? If you've got a solid business plan, you've got a pitch deck, maybe you've started the business and you've proved the concept, you're making it work. How do you then get the $1 million that you need to scale up? How do you buy all the equipment that you need? The bank's not going to give you the money. How do you do it? So that's when we start looking at convertible notes, promissory notes, and other things like that. Regulation D, 506C, private placements, C being the key word there. So with regards to that, there's a whole bunch of other things that you're going to need available. If this whiteboard thing becomes a mainstay, I'm going to have to get a better setup. All right, so let's see. If we go to convertible notes, so this is where you're essentially, it's a business IOU. You're saying, hey, Mr. Investor, I'd like to have you give me some money. I need $1 million or more, or a couple of $100,000. And if you give me this money, I'm going to give you a return on your investment. I'm going to give you an 8%, a 10%, a 12% return on your investment. There's going to be a certain amount of time for which I have to pay you back the principal payment that you send us. And essentially, let's say it's a 2-year note. That means in 2 years' time, I would have to pay you back the principal. But along that time, if I've agreed a 10% return for you, I'd have to pay you 10% per year up until that maturity date. So to do that, you're going to need a couple of other things in place. The first thing is a private placement memorandum. You'll see that right there. And then you'll have to have your securities offering exemption Form D filing, a subscription agreement, investor verification. This is when you're dealing with accredited investors and other corporate documents. These are the ones that you needed to have in the first stage, which is to set up your, you can't raise money if you don't have an entity to put it in. That's why I've left this bucket on the screen here. That is your bank account. Okay. You're going to need to have everything. So to open this bank account in the first instance, you would have needed your LLC and your EIN. So that's your first step. To go and have yourself a convertible note, or if we're going to shift into a Reg D 506C private placement, there's a couple of other things in place. In both cases, you're going to need yourself a PPM. You're going to need a subscription agreement. Well, you won't need a subscription agreement for the purpose of getting a convertible note, because the note itself serves that purpose. But I'll make my screen bigger so you can see it. You're going to need an operating agreement. And you're going to need management agreement. And there's some other ones here that aren't always necessary, but you're definitely going to need a Form D filing. This is your SEC Edgar listing. So when anyone wants to find a bit more about you, they can go to the Edgar database and essentially learn about. Well, you're a registered security that can actually ask. This is essentially your tin cup. If you have everything in place, you can legally go and ask for money. So when people are going to be, if we're going to be speaking to a couple of businesses today where they're going to say, hey, look, I need to raise $3 million, $5 million, $10 million for my business to become to take off, right? Well, going to the bank isn't going to work, right? Business lines of credit isn't going to be enough. I mean, the business lines of credit are going to be able to help you put this together, right? If you don't have any money right now, you're going to need a lawyer to put this together, and your lawyers are going to cost you a pretty penny. I mean, starting fees for this kind of thing on the cheapest I've ever seen is around 5,000 to 7,000, can bump up to around 10 to 15, sometimes 20. And of course, can go extremely higher than that if you have a really complex type of business that you're running with a lot of different things that would just generally require a lot of back and forth communication with a lawyer, so that to put these agreements together, you get, your billable hours are going through the roof. But for the most part, for a basic convertible note, couple of $1,000 for a Reg D 506C placement, you could be expecting to pay between 5 and maybe even 15,000 as about average figures. So, but you need these things to legally go out and ask for money. It's important that you recognize that, because ultimately, once you have these agreements in place, and you're, as far as the SEC is concerned, you can go out waving a tin cup saying, hey, put some money in it. I want to get this business off the ground. You know, you're as far as they're concerned, you're legally able to do so. If you do this if you try and ask for money without being compliant, you'll find yourself with a couple of lawsuits pretty quickly, especially if you've received investor monies. So we can go into a little bit more detail when it comes to this too, because in regards to types of investors, when people think about the kind of investors they're going to look for, like if it's credit, it could be anyone that wants to kind of partner with you. So if you don't have good credit yourself and you're looking to access significant sums of business credit, then you can partner with someone who has good credit that is also acting as an investor per se. Like they may have, let's say, $100,000 in cash in their account, but they don't want to send you that 100 grand in cash because maybe that's all they have, right? But they are liquid for it. But what they might do instead is say, hey, look, I still love your business. I want to get involved with your business. How do I become part of it with the most reduced risk for me? Well, they can actually open up the LLC, get themselves a business credit card a couple of business credit cards to the tune of say 50 to 100,000, maybe even more. And they could give you use of those cards. And so now you have some runway, you have some breathing room that you can deploy to actually build the business that you're trying. And you also have a partner. And of course, the agreement that you have with that partner could be anything. It could be, hey, I'd like to, you can partner, give me access to this credit and you can become, I'll give you this much % of the business for you taking this risk with me. And that could be the agreement that you have and so on. Just generally strategic partners, joint venture partners, just your limited partners that you want to include into your business. Now, that's going for credit. That's if you don't have good credit yourself. So you can always look to that option. But beyond that, when we start looking at investors for your convertible notes or investors for your private placements, your Reg D 506C private placements, then what you're going to need to make sure you're sure is that you're going to need to take money in from only accredited investors. Now, quickly, I'll drum this sentence off because this is something that we burn into our minds when we sell investments. We always have to look for accredited investors. And what is an accredited investor? It's someone who earns $200,000 per year for the last 2 years consecutively, or $300,000 for the last 2 years consecutively with a spouse or a partner. And or if they have $1 million in personal assets outside of their personal residence. It can't be the house they live in. And so that's the highlight for an accredited investor. It's what you need. They need to be before they can actually send you money. So you can get yourself your convertible note, and I'll bring this back on the screen now so you can see some of the points here. Let's have a look. I'll make that bigger as well. So if you're going for a convertible note, you are going to need you're going to need to make sure that they do hit these points, that they are accredited, because it's a security. You're push. This is a Reg D 506C placement. Convertible notes are up here. Yeah. So you're essentially asking. You're going to need to have the necessary. First of all, you need the necessary documents in place, and then second of all, you're going to need to be able to you're going to be taking money from the right kind of investor. So they have to meet those requirements. And we actually do have, at first you'll just have them self-certify that they are essentially accredited and say, do you meet this criteria? It's yes, no. Hopefully not a maybe. It's like yes or a no is where you want to be. If it's a yes, then you can proceed forward and start having the conversation about giving them the convertible note, where they then execute on that contract, which is essentially a business IOU to the investor, where they're kind of agreeing to go on this journey with you. Like you're going to pay them X amount of money at this time in the year, and at the end of it, the maturity, you're going to pay that money back. So you want to make sure that's in place. You're asking money. You're asking the right people for the money that you're looking for. And the same goes for Reg D 506C private placements. Private placements, this is where we start to look at really significant amounts of money. Like you can raise, a couple of million, you can raise 10 million or more on a convertible, quite a lot. But I think we have our new guest coming on soon. That's a little notification. But what's going to happen is going to get money beyond that, people aren't really going to do it based on an IOU, which is really where the Reg D 506e private placements come in, where you can generally solicit an investment to a wide audience and look for investors. But so you can generally market it, but you can only take money in from an accredited investor. And so there's a bunch of different documents that you're going to need in place for that. You're going to need your private placement memorandum. You're going to need a subscription agreement. You're going to need an operating agreement for agreement, and you're going to need a Form D SEC filing, which is your Edgar filing. And this is where you have that self-certification investor questionnaire, which is where you say, are you an accredited investor? Do you have these? Are you, is it, what are your income or net worth thresholds, etc.? And then this, depending on the business, you want to have some further documents as well, like a cap table, which is essentially showing all the different investors who are on the cap table who have already invested with you, or you're going to create a cap table that all investors are going to appear on as they invest money into your fund, your business. And then obviously the essential financial models, projections and models. This is normally where you could even use a fractional CFO here to come in and produce this for you if you haven't got it already. And of course, exit strategies. How are the investors going to get out of this investment? And of course, escrow and that sort of thing, as if applicable, which is for the most part, like with real estate, it's typically going to be an escrow. But the point I'm making is that's a lot of stuff, right? So when people are asking about raising money, it's normally just a flippant comment. It's like, I've spent all this time dreaming up a business plan, but how do I actually go about raising the capital? Well, to do so, you have to go ahead and actually have this kind of this infrastructure, this stuff in place, so that you can actually go and market the opportunity. And then what happens at that point? That's the key word there, marketing. What is marketing? How do you do it? Well, this is really where you have to start thinking about, how do you market everything else? You have to go and you either know people that will buy stuff from you. You have a network of people or contacts and angel investors and that sort of thing. So you can tap a list like that. You can join networking opportunities where, like, accelerators and that sort of thing, where you can hopefully get the attention of some angel investors that will come and invest into your business. Or for the most part, if you're like the rest of us, who they have an idea, you've got a business plan, you want to raise money, you're going to have to market the hell out of it. You're going to have to put together a marketing funnel, which is like a sales page for your investment, and push it out to the market, investors out there, and hope that you can get some interest. And if they get interested and they want to join your opportunity, you got to make sure they're accredited, and you got to make sure that they go through the process of filling out all these documents and signing and sealing everything. So that there is a process to this, and there are companies, of course, that can help you do it, broker dealers, but it's stuff that you can do yourself. And the person who's going to guide you for the most part are certainly people out there like myself who can coach you through the process, but also the lawyer that you use will give you some guidance as to what to do next, because they're essentially giving you the roadmap, the rule book. All right, it looks like we have our first guest. So let's bring on Janal Shah. Let me bring him to the stage and remove my. How you doing, Janal? Nice to meet you.
I'm good. How about you?
I'm good. Interested to learn a bit about your business and what it is that you, what problems it is that you've solved, and where you're going with the company, and what your funding needs are. And we'll see if we can figure out how we can. If we can give you some strategies that you can do yourself to raise capital, and if there's anything that we can do to help, we'll share that with you too.
Yeah. So the problem that we are solving is the biggest problem right now, which is recruitment.
Recruitment.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm a big fan of recruitment. My background was recruitment.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Nice. So right now the biggest problem is candidates are finding it hard to go through the funnel, get an interview and all. They're trying everything, but apparently ATS is blocking them, or they're not able to get to the job first. For employers, the harsh reality is that they are getting so many resumes that it's hard for them to go through the funnel, funnel everyone. Like, it's a very time consuming thing, and they want to get placement fast and want someone to just join quickly.
So these are applicants who have seen a job description on a job board somewhere. They've said, yes, I want to go for that thing. They apply, but they're not being picked up on the second stage, which is where you leave the job board like Indeed.com, and you're essentially applying through a company's applicant tracking system, an ATS as it's known, and they're kind of just being they're dropping off in the process somewhere there.
Most of the job boards, they give you direct links to the ATS systems that the company is using, and then you go and apply there. The blockage is from the ATS to the recruiter's hand. They're being funneled a lot based on keywords, based on a lot of things, mainly skills and keywords.
Oh, so this is where the recruiters are passing through. They're using the tools that are available to them on the ATS to basically try and reduce the workload. And I mean, I do this myself when I'm hiring myself, right? A couple of keywords when I'm looking for investment sales professionals. I'm like, okay, investment, sales, 4 years, looking for certain date ranges, maybe some company keywords. And I'm like, I press search, I get a list of resumes. I get 50 resumes out of the 500 that I received, and now I'm only going through the 50. And you're saying that there's some gems in the 500 that I could be missing. Okay, I got you. Okay,
and so you don't even have to go through those 50. Instead, what we are saying is what I'm building is where we'll give you just 10 candidates, and we are 100% sure that out of those 10 candidates, you will hire one.
No way. Well, let me tell you something, because I say no way because I was having a conversation about this very same thing. It's really funny that this is what you're talking about, because earlier today, and I promise we haven't spoken before, right? This is we haven't spoken. You spoke to Daryl. Well, I think it must have been Daryl. So we're booking this podcast. I was talking to my business partner earlier on today about how we can sift through resumes real quick. And I actually put this forward. So what if we take all the documents, dump them into ChatGPT and tell ChatGPT what we're looking for, and it will just what's the maximum PDF that we can upload? And so I was going to do it like that. I think it's 20 resumes at a time. So it'd still be a process, but every 20 we could find the right candidate or candidates that we could work with. And I thought that would be fantastic. So how are you building this? Do you have a language model that you've created yourself, or are you creating, or you tapping into OpenAI or something like that, like Llama or whatever?
So we have a proprietary algorithm that we have built in-house, which is a mix of using Google's Vertiv AI to help us pass through some of the things. And then based on that, we are using our proprietary algorithm to match it with the prospective candidate. So what we are saying is rather than candidates expressing each and every filtering their experience every time for a resume for a job posting, we are saying that, hey, rather than that, you tell us everything about you. We'll do that for you.
Okay.
We'll do that for you.
Okay.
And for the employers, it would be hey, give me all the candidates that have this experience, who have let's say worked in VC funding, who have been a VC or some. So whatever particular experience you're looking for, if they have it, it doesn't have to be just the skills or the keywords that tell you that. The actual experience, the actual behind the scenes, a lot of things happen, and the resume is filtering a lot of things. It's 1% of these things.
Yeah, it's okay. So it's it's what they're showcasing and what they think is best for a showcase. Okay, so let's go beyond that then. How far along this journey have you come? Where are you? Have you built it yet? Is this working? Is it concept stage? Is this something like a ChatGPT, a chatbot that works separately from an ATS, or does it plug into an ATS?
So
are we doing enterprise here, or are we doing something on the side for your recruiter? How is it?
Okay. So what we have right now, we are still building it.
Yeah.
But we are very close to launching it. At least onboarding our first, I would say, initial design partners to help us, like, make it much better. So we have the MVP almost ready.
Okay.
Um, and then on top of that, the thing
So
that you mentioned, like on ATS and other things. So we have two models where like right now we are saying we are building basically like kind of like LinkedIn, where like someone would create their profile and then we'll have them like match
just to
directly.
interject for a second, for people who don't know what an MVP means, minimal viable product. Just so, and that in software terms means you've almost got a workable app, right? That works, that clicks, that does the job at least a base level. Like you might have all these lofty plans for it, but at the very base level, it does this one thing.
Yes.
And it does it well, and it can demonstrate. It's like a prototype that works. Okay, so sorry, I just wanted to make sure that I covered that, because that's some of the lingo people don't know.
No, definitely. And so from there, what we are saying is like we would be then connecting to their ATS so that it like they don't have to do the job posting again and those kind of things. We can import it. We can even like send the candidates through the funnel, and directly like have them on their records and those kind of things.
So
on our side, we don't want candidates to like keep on applying. We don't even want them to have their resumes.
right.
And that's the beauty of this product, where like you tell your mind, like, tell us what you are doing exactly, and we will translate that for you. You don't have to worry about that. You don't have to tell us keywords. You don't have to tell us like, okay, hey,
So you can use natural language to say, hey, I'm looking for a salesperson who's got experience specifically with selling 1031 exchange real estate, and I need them to be good. I don't want a dimwit. I want them educated. Like, you can be generalized like that, right? And then so you say those things, which of course you couldn't say on a job description, because you'd have HR all over you. And you can tell this chatbot, which is kind of in a vacuum, having this conversation, right? Well, at least you hope so. And then because you said it was your proprietary system, right? So it's not connected to like the big old OpenAI. No. But so now, okay, so that's good. So now I get it. So you're almost at a MVP though. So how much are you looking to raise? What are you trying to do going forward? Like, are you trying to get some money, go for an enterprise client? Are you trying to get some money, get it to MVP and just test it, beta test it with users that you find? Like, give me your next steps.
Yeah. So the next step is to raise the pre-seed to help us create the story for the seed round.
Yeah.
I'm like planning to raise $1 million for the pre-seed. In this pre-seed, what we are trying to work with is like basically small businesses, because we want to target first small businesses, because for enterprise, they already have a huge system out in place. But what we want for small businesses, or basically like early stage startups, like Series A, Series B, you can post a job right away and then have candidates lined up right now and close your position, because for them that's the need of the hour.
Yeah, no, I get it. I want it. Like, if that works, I want it for my company. So it's like, because I one of the things that I do is I build massive distribution networks of sales agents that operate around the world. So, and this is something that is probably good for you as well to know. Is like, because whenever it comes to selling, the easiest way to sell things fast, and it comes to raising money is the same way, is to be able to sell through people that already have access to the customers that you want, right? So if they already have a relationship, a pre-existing nurtured relationship with the customer, you want to be able to tap into them as the medium to be able to sell it for you, because they already have a relationship. You're going in cold, they're going in hot. And of course, if they're in different territories, they can sell locally in a way that you can't. They can sell against the social norms that exist in that territory that you don't necessarily have. I mean, I used to do this when I'm based in London, when I'm looking to sell certain properties, and I'm looking for international investors, not just from UK, but like I'm looking for France, Germany, Spain. I remember when I was doing that, I would send out an ad, and what would work in the UK wouldn't work in France. Like, we need a whole different actors, different faces, different types of smiles, different types of wording. And then same thing, the French one in France didn't work for the one in Germany. So we had to have a different one for Germany, and then a different one for Spain, and a different one. So by actually tapping into all the different people out there, you can actually you're way more effective as a business, because you can sell faster. And so my biggest challenge is when I'm looking for sales reps, and I don't know if you have tried this, or, and I know you know because of the business that you're in, but for anyone who's listening, if you actually put a job ad out for looking for sales rep, you will get absolutely inundated. You'll get like 500 emails straight away, like looking, everyone's applying for a job, because for some reason sales reps are generally, they're the prospecting type generally, right? So they're going to go and they're always looking for a better position that'll pay more, higher base salary and whatever. So you're going to end up with a hell of a lot of people, and so your job is then to sift through them. They call it parsing in recruitment. You have to parse through all the applications, and it can be a monumental headache, because it's a big slowdown. But for me, it's part of our business. We have to do this all the time. It's one of the ways that we raise money for people and companies. We actually match them with investment salespeople out there in the world who have access to investors already, and we bring them into the business. So that's one of the ways in which we could talk about how much in terms of how you could actually recruit people that already have the investors that you want. But let's talk about like the money that you're trying to raise right now. What are you trying to raise to get the MVP done and finished? And you're probably going to need some money for marketing, right? And what about human capital, like the people that you have that are running the business? So give me the lowdown.
Yeah. So the breakdown of the this thing is like, first is like, since this is an MVP, there would be like, a lot of things that we would have to do to scale it and other things. So operational cost of running the product. Second is hiring engineers to help in develop much faster as we get more and more feedback as to like, integrating it with ATS and other things as well. Like, hey, how do we make the platform more and more easier for you to just stick to the platform rather than go somewhere else. The other thing that marketing here has two aspects.
Just
one
sticky,
is
making the platform sticky. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Another one of those words that people use in that business, right? How do you make it sticky? Go on.
Yeah. The second thing is for marketing, we would have to have two channels. One is like for B2C, which is the candidate side, direct to consumers, and then the B2B, which is the company side. And so making sure that we are able to hear from both sides so that both the experiences look good. It helps company build their brand, and it helps candidate understand like where they are lacking and how they can improve their applications and those kind of things.
Okay. So how much is it? How much you need?
I told you, right? So $1 million in pre-seed round, and then which we are thinking on like the pre-valuation.
How would you? Okay, so $1 million. So what road have you gone down so far? Are you looking at safes, convertible notes? Are you going at that direction, or are you looking for a private placement to go further?
I mean, I would like to explore both the options. I don't have a particular this thing. I mean, this is the first time I'm raising. Even I don't know the exact.
Oh well, okay. So if you're first time raising, most people, especially in the SaaS space, tend to go for, I'm going to raise against a safe, or I'm going to go for a convertible note, right? Because it's the simplest. It's like you can get a template from the internet. You can go find one. Get ChatGPT to make one for you if you want. Although I would have a template that's been used before at least. I mean, that's what the lawyers do, by the way.
Yeah.
You know how many lawyers I work with where all they're doing is you think that the attorney's written out this entire convertible note. It's a template. And do you know where they get the template from? They call other companies. Hey, we're interested in that investment. Could you send us the details? Can you send us the term sheets? They get sent the term sheets. So they have these pre-written convertible note templates, and then they just kind of get their paralegals to rewrite them. So, everyone's copying and pasting somewhat. So I don't think it's that terrible to consider using AI to assist you with the process.
Because, no, definitely.
Yeah, but a convertible note is a business IOU. You are saying, look, hey, give me this money. and I'm going to promise you, what are you offering? Like, let people know, what are you offering as far as a percentage to investors? What are you thinking?
So right now, for $1 million, I'm offering 10%.
10%. How long is the term?
So when you say how long is the term,
like a 2-year note, 4-year note, 3-year note, 1-year note?
So
like,
can you explain more
when will you
on
pay
this?
back the principal? I'll explain what that means then. Shall I explain it?
Yeah.
Okay. So when you're looking at convertible notes, there's a point at which it will convert, right? So it's a note, which means it's a loan. You're asking people to lend you money, and so because it's a note, you have to have a minimum level of interest that you're going to pay them back. So it counts as debt, right? So it's not just money that you've received into your business. So you're going to have to say, the loan's going to last 2 years, and I'm going to give you, or whatever, however long it's going to be, right? 3 years, 1 year, 18 months, 23 months, whatever it has to be. I mean, try and make it simple. They usually come in 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. And at the end of that date, that time frame, which is your maturity date, that's when it's due for you to pay the principal payment back, right? Normally, you can also tag that with, that's when we'll also pay you your returns. So if it's 10% per year for 2 years, you could say, give me $1 million. I'm going to pay you 100 grand per year, but I'll pay you the 100 grand per year on year 2's maturity. Okay. So you can pay it at the maturity date. Sometimes, so otherwise, sometimes you'll have people that say, no, I want to see that money come in earlier. I want to see it yearly. I want to see the 100 grand per year. So it depends on how you structure it. But in a lot of cases, especially with the SaaS tech businesses, everyone knows you're not going to be revenue. You're pre-revenue probably. So you need time to get there. So they're not looking to get that until the actual maturity date. And then, of course, on the maturity date, then you can convert to shares. Okay. So converting to shares is really, it depends on what the business is, right? Because some investors, they're going to be, more likely, the likelihood is that they'd probably go for a conversion if you're growing, if you're showing significant growth, and you're saying, hey, look, if you convert, I'll let you convert at, say, a 20% discount. You've got to make the convertible note interesting, right? Otherwise, no one's going to pay attention. You know how many convertible notes are out there? Like, how is you've got a good business case, but why is it interesting to an investor? Okay. So investors, they are looking, think about the mindset of an investor.
No,
investors want to come to you today, give you $5, park $5 with you, and then come back a week later and pick up 10. That's what they want. Okay. And so that's the underlying thing that they want. They want to get their money to work for them, right? They also, then the secondary things come into play. I want to be part of something that's disruptive. I want to be part of something that's going to change the world. I'm going to be part of something that's like really cool. So then they start looking into everything else that justifies the decision beyond the numbers. But ultimately, it all comes down to how much they get. So your convertible note is effectively it's your, it's the bumper sticker you're going out with. It's not actually the fact that you have a SaaS recruitment software with an AI component. It's actually, hey, we're going out 10% returns, fantastic growth industry, that kind of minimum investment, 100 grand per investor. So you only need 10, all right? Okay. So to get you your $1 million, that's normally how I would go about doing it, man. Like that would be the way, because you've got to sell it. You've got to sell it to the investors, because where are the investors?
Yeah, no, definitely.
It's the biggest headache out there.
No, definitely. I mean, like right now, getting an investment is one of the biggest challenge that I've seen. And being the first time founders, it's like a more bigger challenge, because they don't know what they have to do, how they have to do it, and like what they can do actually.
Well, I can tell you, I can give you some ideas now. But first off, let's ask about like what would happen if, like, how is your company running right now financially? Like, are you making money at all? Are you just feeding it with your own savings and people that sweat equity?
Bootstrapped. Yeah.
Bootstrapped completely. Okay.
Yeah.
Are you based in the US?
Yeah.
You are. Have you considered like the basic? And I speak to this because some of the people who are watching this, I know, are going to know, they're going to be wondering, where does like the different levels of types of access to capital come in? Like, so at the very beginning, you have access to credit. You go to the banks, ask for money, right? Hey, can I have some business credit cards? Can I get some business lines of credit? can I get a personal loan? Can I get, can I use the
Yeah.
bank to remortgage the house? Like, you're going to the bank first. And the good thing about going
Mhm.
to a bank is you're basically filling out an application form and you're hoping for the best. You cross your fingers because the bank will either give it to you or they won't, right? So, in your case, have you gone down the road of like getting access
Mhm.
to business credit cards, for instance?
So I have some where like you get it at 0% interest and
Hmm.
those kind of things.
Yeah.
Definitely have that. But the reason why I'm planning on raising rather than going that route is for two reasons. One is like you said, like uh, you get into the you're able to tap into the network of those investors, because those investors have already invested in a lot of companies. Our main target audiences startups, like early stage or mid stage startups and those kind of people. So for them, it would be easy for me to get those connections and like go get those initial client bases, even without doing any or spending enough money on marketing at that
Mhm.
point. So in a way, it is like a win-win situation for them as well, where like let's say if they invest in this, they get a platform that they can use it across the board to recruit for the other startups, and irrespective like grow much faster there as well.
Okay.
So it's not just like they're investing in me and then like in a normal startup it is like, okay, yeah, they're investing in there, and then like it's, let's say, Uber or someone, they're investing in Uber, and then Uber is only able to return that money. But for us, if they invest in us, they can have like investment, a return on investment much faster from the other startups as well. So it's a multiplier effect that we can provide.
Okay. I mean, that's interesting, but it's hard to get people to, I guess, what challenges have you faced going out with that offer?
Um,
Like,
like
how
I,
far have you gone with it? Like, how far have you gone out asking?
like I said, like I was more concentrated on getting the MVP done before starting it. But even before creating the MVP, I reached out to some of the investors, and the biggest thing that they said was like, "Hey, we need to have the MVP at least to see like what we are getting into and those kind of things." So now, since I have the MVP, I want to now get the attention for investors and see and I know what value I can provide. I know how I can give them the ROI and everything. Um, but this is how I'm basically planning on like, okay, hey, um, it's not just the investment that you're doing in one startup. You're basically helping multiply the investment from the other startups by uh, by improving their efficiencies and making them faster to grow.
Okay. So I get that. But the list of investors that you've gone to, how big's the list?
It's not that big, to be frank. It's like uh, in the like lower two digits. So
Where did you get it from? How did
um,
you build it? Did you go on LinkedIn? Did you go to pitch deck?
yeah,
Did you go to accelerators, find out who the delegates were, who was there? Like, how did you build the list? Because people, by the way, this is what people do this. This is how they go ahead and
mhm,
and raise capital. Like, there's the bootstrap way of doing it, and then there's ways
yeah,
to pay for it to get it done faster. The more people that get involved,
mhm,
yes, the faster things can happen, but then there's more hands in the cookie jar, and there's upfront
yeah,
fees and there's performance fees and all that kind of stuff. And then, but the base level is to go and make a list, get your pen and
yeah.
paper out, and start start finding it.
No, definitely, and that's what I did. Like I started connecting with some of the investors. I found them on LinkedIn and tried to get their email. Tried to see how we can. Some of the list were like on like uh, we got accepted into the Google AI startup program, and so there they had a list of uh, fundraising. Like they have that list where if you want to get more funding, or like more credits, you can, if you are like, if you have funding from these people. So I took that list and started like looking into people and those kind of things.
Okay. All right. Well, so you got to go get your convertible note put together, and you've got to get your MVP completed, and then you've got to go and ask those people for money. Or if they say no, I mean, what happens if they say no? What happens to your business?
I mean, I will do it anyways. It might be slow, but I'll do it anyways.
Okay, you're just gonna. It's because you have the skill set to build it. It
Yeah.
just takes some time. Okay, got
It'll
it.
take time.
Yeah, but you got it. You have a window of opportunity, right? Right now, there's a gold rush with AI.
Yes, I know.
So
And
you want
not only
to
just
take advantage of it.
especially with recruiting, also
Recruiting. Listen, recruiting is a big people. Very much overlooked in many businesses as business ideas and things to work with. I come from the recruitment background. When I first started my professional career, I was a recruiter, then graduated to become a headhunter. Then I got bored of matching people with businesses and started realizing I could make more money matching businesses with businesses. And because the broker fees in there would get way more. So strategic alliances, strategic partnerships, and lo and behold, I go about building distribution networks for companies. Which include both the people and the places and the things, right? So the people being the humans, the places being the business, and the things being the products that have customer bases that would be fit for purpose. Now, when it comes to how you would get your opportunity out there, like have you considered marketing it? Have you considered going out to investors, that big cohorts of investors, and saying, with that bumper sticker, right, that headliner, it's like 10%, 2 years. Convertible note maturity, all payable out on maturity with a 20 or 30% discount on valuation, with no valuation on shares, with no valuation cap, right? Because you're going for a Series A round. You go from 0 to 100 customers paying you 100 grand a year in fees. Now you got yourself a very, very valuable company. And if anyone comes in at this early stage, they're going to be able to collect those shares when it can convert at a discount. And so they're going to be in an opportunistic position. So that's a sales pitch right there. So that's what the headline is. And then everything else is like, okay, it's recruitment, it's AI, it's SaaS. So how are you going to get that to investors? Like, what's your plan? And if you don't have a plan, I'll give you one.
No, I haven't. I haven't. I don't have a proper plan around that.
Okay.
Because I mean, as I said, like I was more focused on getting the MVP done, than the marketing. But so
okay. Well, this is where you have to start selling. You got this is where you've seen those memes there where it's like you have to kind of do the Clark Kent to Superman kind of switch. You got to switch the hats. You know what I mean? You've gone from like developer and the engineer to like, okay, sales hat, I'm going to now go out and start promoting this thing. Or you recruit, right? So you bring in partners, you bring in a partner that knows how to sell, right? So now it's about going out and finding the investors. So, I mean, there's a couple of ways you can do that. There's ways you can go out to, as far as outreach is concerned, right? You can look to creating basically like a sales funnel with that offer on the page, and you take that and you go to an audience filled with investors. So you start tapping into the demographic that you hope to draw money from, and you hammer them with the opportunity. You hammer them through emails, you hammer them through ads. And what happens is, just like any other sales funnel, people register interest and then they go through, and then you got to make sure that they're accredited. So there's things that you have to do in that process. Like you need to make sure, hey, are you an accredited investor? Do you earn 200 grand a year at minimum, or with a spouse 300,000, or do you have $1 million in the assets outside of your personal residence? I need to know this because I can't accept your money if you don't have that criteria filled. All right. So and the last thing you want to do is take money from an non-accredited. Monumental headache you don't want to deal with the SEC. As I always say, don't FUCK with the SEC, right? That's the most important thing. They're very powerful. Like with what's happening in politics today, you're going to need some pretty big characters to go and start rumbling, ruffling up those feathers. And little old you and me aren't the people to do it. So we got to play by the rules. Okay. So, how do you go ahead and make that happen? Because you need interest. By the way, what I just explained there is the cut and dry way. Like when you go to a broker dealer and you say, hey, you have investors, they say yes. How do you think they got those investors? That's
Mm-hmm.
how they did it. They sent out advertisements, and they were just slick about learn how to safeguard your capital. Look at this economic turmoil, and then people register interest, and then, hey, well, we have a fund that invests in things, and then that's how they get investors, right? So you pull your money out the markets and put it into a private fund, and then you can deploy it somewhere else. That's the whole. So that's how you broker dealers do it. So you could do it yourself. You could You could go about creating a funnel, pushing it out there to the relevant demographic, getting those investors to register interest, filtering them. You could probably use your own parsing software to work with this.
Yeah.
Find out who's accredited and who's not, and then deal with the people who you think are the highest likelihood of who would invest with you, right? So, and of course, but at some point, it's got to transition from a funnel to a conversation. And at that point, you want that conversation to be with not just a random salesperson or a random in-between entity.
Yeah.
They have to be registered as a broker dealer. They have to be, there's regulations in place. They have to be speaking to your company only, right? Because you can legally go out there and solicit. You don't have to have a license for that. You just have to make sure you're playing by the rules. It's kind of like filing your taxes. You got to file them, but if you lied or if you make mistakes, you can be sure the IRS are going to come back for you, right? So it's the same thing when it comes to SEC. Like, you can, as long as you operate within the rules, you're good, and you can go out there and you can promote. So that is essentially it. That's the first thing that you could do, which is a bit more proactive than just kind of hammering through a list, which you probably do with a little less than the necessary intensity that's probably required for a cold outreach.
No, definitely.
It could be difficult. Getting rejected is hard,
I mean, it's a part of, and then especially in the recruitment business, it's kind of like it's a part and parcel, and like it will help us understand, like, okay, hey, how do we help people get handle rejections and those kind of things.
Yeah. I absolutely. So number one is you could go ahead and do that. You can set up a funnel and go market out them. The second thing you can do is start looking for the people who already have access to the investors. Okay. And so that is now looking at, now there's basic things you can do. Like, you can go to accelerators and kind of join them and give up some equity on the front end, pay them a monthly fee, and hope that they won't BSing you through the door, so that there is actually some investors there that, will care about your opportunity. And they have enough events going on that you're available to go to, where you can then also attract the necessary angels. Or you can go to, you can start looking at other people, like placement agents and that sort of thing, people that are supposedly have access to the money. But everyone's going to say that they have access, right? It's down to you, because they want to collect. There's always going to be a fee to pay, especially if you start going down that. As soon as you start introducing other humans into the mix, there's going to be money. I mean, we get involved in the same way. Like, we do the same thing. And one of the biggest bugbears for our clients is like, oh, can we just pay on performance? Like, you got to think of it from the other side too. If you're asking other people to help you tap their network or go through a Rolodex of potentials, you've got to recognize that there's a time horizon from when they start working with you and when money actually gets deployed into your account, and when they can actually receive a finder's fee, if they can even legally receive the finder's fee. And so there is this time delay from which they work with you and when the money comes in. So there's normally like 9 times out of 10, everyone's going to say to you, yeah, I need some upfront fee for this. Like, you're going to have to. And that's where the conversation normally dies with most businesses, because they're like, no, I don't want to pay the upfront fee. I only want to pay on a performance basis only. And that's where you have this complete disconnect, because it's like, well, someone has access, he's got the keys to the castle. The business owner thinks he has the best thing since sliced bread, but you've got a disconnect. This guy's not going to give it up. You're not going to give it up. So the conversation dies, and that could have been an investor. So there's a couple of things that you could do to really position yourself properly, and it's to generate excitement around your business. And that's really where, again, marketing comes into play. I mean, look at some of the best marketers out there. Well, cap raisers out there. They're fantastic marketers. Like, I mean, a good example is, because he's in the news every day, Elon Musk. Like, whenever he needs more money to get injected into his shares so that he has more available capital, he starts pinging off everything. He's everywhere. He's talking about this. He's creating chaos there. He's doing something. It's all to get attention. Well, it's not all to get attention, but part of it is to get a significant amount of attention that will drive more money into his opportunities, right? So and he has multiple businesses, and that's a big example. But most smaller entities operate in the exact same fashion, man.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Okay.
man. Which would you
No,
which
definitely.
direction do you think you're going to go down?
So at least like I'll start with the one that I already have, the list. See if I can
The
place it there
cheapest.
first. Yeah.
But okay,
Uh,
I got to ask you why see, this is the thing. What this I want to know, why do businesses, why do you do that? What's going through your mind when you think about all those different options? Is it fear just
no, no,
going down
it's
that
not
road? Like,
fear. It's basically like I already have the list. Like even though it's like very low, but let's first try there itself. Worst case, if even if I get the feedback, I can improve it, and then when I have the say like the sales pitch or the sales funnel for the investors, at least I'll have a much better answers and much better response, and there is a high possibility of converting there. Then going into like directly going to the sales funnel and then finding out the hard way some of the
yeah.
things.
So, but if you had a deadline, that wouldn't be the way to
Mhm.
go. Because like I say,
Yeah,
if
yeah.
you had
If
a
I
run
had a
rate,
deadline, let's say if I had a deadline of like the next 2 or 3 months, that okay, yeah, after that my funds are going to be exhausted completely. Let's say, then I would have involved a human, and like there are multiple agencies, so I would have involved them, and then
hopefully,
like
yeah.
yeah, irrespective, because at that point like it didn't matter, like anyways I'm dying, rather I'll die gracefully and try and get to the fastest, then yeah, do the other
Yeah,
way.
I got it, man. Got it. Well, you'll be pleased to know that when we send out these podcasts
Mhm.
for our newsletter, we have a pretty decent size investor base that will get to see this conversation, so they'll get to know a bit more about you. Um, so, what's the name of the business, man? We didn't even speak on that. Like, what was the name of the company? Is there a
uh,
website?
I mean it's in the build, but the name of the business is referrals. The reason why I've said it referrals rather than any other name is basically like when you get a referral, when hey, I'm looking for a salesperson, like you normally mentioned that, hey,
Yeah, well,
you tell your
use me as
friend.
an example. I want you to show me how you could help me. Let's do that.
Yeah.
Okay, let's give you a
uh,
specific problem to solve. I look for investment salespeople all the time because they work for my
mhm,
company. They work for my clients too. We take on clients, and our clients are in need of investment sales professionals. And so, we operate like a recruitment agency in
mhm.
that sense. So how would show me how it would work for me?
Yeah, I mean the example that
Like,
I was like,
take
the
it through
reason why I
the
was,
step by step. So if any
yeah.
investors listening in right now, they can fully
Mhm.
understand.
Yeah, so from the recruiter side, the way it works is like, you can do a job posting. We would ask you, so once you do the posting, from there we would extract that data and basically ask more deeper questions around like, hey, what type of candidate are you looking for, what would it mean, like what are the basic skills and something like that, like depending on what the job posting is about and those kind of thing. Once we have that, that's when we would pass that information and like put it into some kind of ML model to go and look for our candidate list and say that okay, yeah, why like we would match it, and we would actually tell you like why this is a match, because the reason like, hey, this person has this is what you're looking for, this is what you are saying, and this person is matching like 80% or 90% of what you are looking for. um, and in that way you have the list sorted out from the highest matching to the lowest matching, and you can update like, okay, yeah, you're not getting the right list, you can update quickly, and you would have like a good amount of candidate list right there and there, and you can start connecting with them. So that's a whole model from the recruiter side.
Okay. All right. What would you do? Like, what ways would you, if you're thinking the most lowest cost ways to
Mhm.
take that now? And I'm just thinking about like what you're saying. Like you're talking about going through the list that you have, which, as you mentioned, is very small. Like, what would you be doing going forward? Like, would you be able to? How would you take? What would be the next step if that didn't work? Would you be able to then? Would you consider going and maybe buying other lists, like accessing those databases that exist out
Mhm.
there,
Yeah.
and going through different, there's like they have analytics and stuff like that. So this is all about
Mhm.
cold outreach, right? You're con
Yeah.
you're thinking about going down the cold outreach road. So I'm
Mhm.
trying to think of like what's the most effective way to do that. I mean, you can even employ people to just kind of DM people on your behalf. There's plenty of
Mhm.
agencies that do that, by the way, and they're not the most expensive, but I've never found that to be very successful. It's
Yeah.
a very, very slow process. Like when I've raised capital for real estate, when I've raised capital as in fundraising for angel opportunities, like
Mhm.
it's tech startups and small to medium businesses who want to just expand and gain market share. The easiest thing that we've always done is we've always gone proactively marketed, because we know who the demographic, Facebook Meta know who the
Mhm.
demographic is. They know
Yeah.
where the investors sit. So when you start saying, hey, I'm looking, run ads to investors, and you type in like the type of
Mhm.
criteria and the demographic and the geographic location you're looking for, you gotta, I mean, there's things that make that more efficient, like having lookalike
Mhm.
audiences, and you've gone through testing, and you've got like a very, very good audience set, which we certainly do. This is one of our main things in our business. We we
Mhm.
we help companies
Yeah.
market their investment opportunities. Um, and so that's, by doing that, you're able to get your opportunity in front of as many people as possible. And it comes down to basic sales, right? So it's whether you're doing it yourself directly or you're switching into another company that can
Mhm.
help you market
Yeah.
it.
So basically, what you're saying is like go and create ads on Facebook that will do the CTA, the click through action,
Yeah,
and help you register. Either start getting you those list of information like email addresses, name, something like that.
yeah,
That can give you direct access to some of the investors who are more interested in like knowing about the product, trying to see whether they have it or not. So that is definitely one way I
it's
am
it's it's the bread and butter
thinking.
way.
But
It's the bread and butter way to do it. It's like it's the gold standard, man. Like it's like, you know.
not exactly. So there is another website called Ask for Funding,
Mhm.
which does a monthly subscription fee, and they would give you the list of investors.
Yeah, but
They
there's
would give.
angelinvestorlist.com or whatever. Those, do you think, you know how many
Mhm.
times those lists have been spammed? Like you gotta,
I know,
yeah. So
I know.
you think you're gonna send an email for an email manager and just send that out there and just, you think that some people are gonna, it doesn't work like that, man. Like I've been in this game way too long. Those companies, they're getting you on that first fee. You think
Mhm.
it's, oh, it's a $97 a month. All they care about is that first 97, get you in the front door in the first place, because that
Mhm.
list has been hammered so much. Like that, how do you think that list grows? And that you if you think about, look at one list. Imagine we have a list of, for instance, like 40,000 investors, right, on that we know who
Mhm.
bought stuff. Like they bought things from us in the past, bought things from companies that we work with. So we know they're paid for stuff. We have information on them, right? Like what their AMLs and their KYC were before they made the purchase. We think we know a lot about them. I know their address. I know how much they bought 2 years ago when they bought the thing. I know at the time what they were liquid for. I know how much money they had in their 401k
Mhm.
or their self-directed for. We think we know so much about these people, and it's a list. But if we just hammered that list every day, you think that email base would be responsive? No. But
No.
if I put that 40,000 into a software system and said, hey, come and join this for $97 a month, or $297, $497, $1,000 a month, and hammer this list. So going to get someone like yourself coming on there and thinking, okay, let me just
Mhm.
pull all these emails off, stick them in a mailer, and just hammer them every single day, spray and pray. You think that list is going to be a viable list by the end of 1 week? Doesn't work like that.
Mhm.
They're very, very ineffective. If you're looking at the brass tacks way to do things yourself, is always going to be through marketing out there. If you look at every business out there
Mhm.
who's raising capital, if they're not using people that already have access to investors, they're using standardized marketing techniques, but you don't see the ads running typically because they're always kind of behind other ads. So like I mentioned earlier, like,
Mm-hmm.
safeguard your assets. There's a storm coming, the fear of loss, and they'll tap into different things. And then you'll have these people who will come through those channels. That's the one of the most proactive ways to do it. I mean, you can start looking at there are other companies like the crowdfunding companies that exist
Mm-hmm.
out there. They attract a lot of like the investors that you feel warm and fuzzy about, right? The tech ones, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
if you're thinking you're a tech company, you're a SaaS
Yeah.
product. So you might be thinking, I want those kind of angel investors, a Silicon Valley type, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so they go to places like, they go to all those crowdfunding platforms. I know they keep an eye on the crowdfunding opportunities that are out there. So there's people in there. I know that there's, then there's also the Regulation A opportunities. So here's the thing: the Regulation A and crowdfunding, like those two, which is what you see promoted around the internet, because those are the only, for the most part, those are the ones that get the most traction because they're able to get money from people that are not accredited, right? So a Reg CF or a Regulation A is you can get money from any Tom, Dick, and Harry, right? It's like
Mm-hmm.
you don't have to be an accredited investor. You can say you can invest for as little as $100, right? So you're
Mm-hmm.
hoping sort of slices make a loaf when you get enough money that you need. I mean, let's ask you, why aren't you considering the Reg CF, go down a crowdfunding?
Yeah, I mean, like I said earlier itself, like I haven't thought about all the ways of funding, and that's why we started that conversation around like, okay, yeah, these are the different ways of funding. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's not that I haven't thought of it. It's just like I didn't know about. I know about the crowdfunding, so that was one of the other ways. But yeah, I
But you
haven't.
need setup costs for crowdfunding too. It's like,
Yeah, I mean, if I, anyways, like, if I am tapping into any network, like, there is a entry fee for any
Mhm.
network. It's like, so,
Yeah.
it's not gonna be,
Yeah. For
yeah.
everyone out there that goes to crowdfunding sites and sees that, they say, oh, there's no setup fee. We only
Mhm.
take 7% or 3% or 5% of the raise. Once the raise is completed, it's like, yeah, that's to lure you in. You actually have to pay a lot of other things. Like, first of all, you need the documentation in place. You need a Reg CF, right? So
Yeah.
it's like you need the agreements in place, you need the contracts in place, and you're going to have to go for that. You can't pull from it as a template. That you have to go to a lawyer for, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
To register it properly, appropriately. And so there's fees to register it. There's fees for the lawyer. So you have to have this money, right? And then there's
Mhm.
like when you go into the platform, the Reg CF platform, and guess what happens when you list it in there? It's like just listing it on any other site. Nothing much happens straight away. What you have to
Yeah.
do is start paying for the promotions. It's like,
Mhm.
you start to push it out there a little bit more, right? You have to start. They'll start sharing their audience with you. You can start promoting directly yourself. You have to have your own ad budget. When you speak to a lot of companies, that when you actually get further down the road in your cap raise, one of the things you're going to have to weigh up is if you're going to be promoting your own investment opportunity and getting leads in and then paying people a commission or something or a finder's fee to then sell those leads into your opportunity, you kind of have to weigh up how much money you're spending on marketing versus how much money you're paying in fees to have someone sell for you. And if they're going to be
Mhm.
using the same funnel, like are you chewing up too much of the money? Like, is there too much money being spent on the acquisition of the capital, so that what you end up with is not actually enough to actually build a business. So
Yeah.
you end up getting money in, you're kind of like turning over money. It's like machine
Mhm.
washing it,
Yeah.
right? But it's like
Mhm.
you're not being able to. There's not enough there for you to get off the ground, and a lot of
Mhm.
companies find themselves in that problem sometimes, man. So that's a little bit something to think about as you go down
Mhm.
this road. But yeah, going down the do-it-yourself version. I mean, you have to see it through. I think you said your MVP is almost ready, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, man. So you got to go
Almost.
show and tell.
Yeah,
Show and
definitely.
tell it. Yeah. Cool. Well, listen,
Cool.
thank you. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Hang on. Do you have any questions that you want to ask me? Is there anything specific that you want me to help you with? Like any answer questions on, or just give you my opinion on?
Um, so funding is definitely one of the biggest challenge of any startup. Um, like you guys are also helping out fundings and helping out businesses. Um, why not? And the biggest challenge on funding comes not only like I think it's mainly around trust, whether the investor are trusting that whole model, whether it will go through, to make them the Uber level returns or the Meta level returns and those kind of things.
Well,
So
there are
that's the whole.
investors like that. They don't always want that. Like you have investors that are looking for like 10x opportunities. Like there, like there's groups of investors that we work with that some of them are like,
Mhm,
I just want a 12% return. I just want
mhm,
12% return on my, I want a 20% return on my money. I don't care what it is, as long as I get 20%. Then
mhm,
there's others who are like, no, I'm looking for 10x. I want to 10x my money. Like I want to 5x it, 10x it, 20x it, right? You're like 100x. Like, what are you talking about? I only want to look at pre-seed, concept-based, like disruptive opportunities, right?
mhm,
And they want to have like 20 of these different opportunities in front of them, and they want to start allocating money against each one. They want to see like
mhm,
which one's going to kind of moonshot, right? So it's kind of
mhm,
like they're trying to do the mini me version of a VC, right? They just want to take whatever
mhm.
capital they have, like 100 grand, 10 grand, 10 grand, 10 grand, 10 grand.
Yeah.
They don't want to just go for all these. There's people that do that. And so there's that type. Investors come in different shapes and forms. You know, you've got people that want to see stuff that's
Mhm,
asset backed. Like, okay, so you're building this. You said you're using your own. The question is less about the business and it's more about forget the fact that you're using your language model for recruitment. Let's talk about
mhm,
that language model. Let me talk about whether what system, like how can that become the asset behind the business. The fact that you're deploying it against recruitment is useful, but I want to know more about the code, or like I said, in this case, the AI language model that you're saying that you
mhm.
developed. And if that's the case, by the way, you should say if you've got a sophisticated one, now's the time to say it.
Uh, so we are still building on the sophisticated one. Like with less data, we couldn't build a proper. Like once we start having more and more data, we will definitely building uh, an, a recruitment focused AI model. Uh,
Full. Okay, so right now you have a language model. It's not a large language model, but even though
mhm.
as a language model, you're saying it's not that sophisticated yet, but it's poised to be.
Yeah.
How is it learning, or how are you beefing it up in layman's terms?
Through no, no. So there are two ways. One is I've partnered with some of the recruiters to help us validate whether this is what the understanding is. So basically labeling them and then uh, getting data from candidates like okay this and then getting data from uh, companies okay so at the end it's like okay yeah whether this is matching this or not is given by three people. The validation is three people. One is like hey what does the candidate look uh, sees and shows. One is the company, how they see it, and then the other one is the recruiter, how they see it. Because this person seeing it goes and applies. This person seeing it checks whether is this a good fit and pass it on to the hiring team, whoever it is.
Mhm.
And then here they go deeper into hey, is this the right match or not?
Okay.
And that's when the whole interview process would start. That whole process itself takes because the first filtering, making sure that the alignment is right or not, and those kind of things takes at least 3 to 4 weeks. Getting all the resumes, sometimes it takes unless some recruiters who start doing it in parallel and other things, but at least once they have a chunk of resumes and then they start doing it at least 2 to 3 weeks to start filtering out candidates who are who are ready for the first screening, whatever it is. um, my whole thing is if we reduce that 2 to 3 weeks into hey, can I screen this person right now because I know this person is the right person, then that's the value that we would basically be providing. So that's where this model is going to train from all these three entities to make sure that okay yeah we are getting the right thing. And then We want to even make the model like more personalized to each and every company, because for each and every company, it's like going to be the totally thing. Uh, so that is one other thing that we are planning on doing.
Okay. Okay, cool. Well, you've got your work cut out for you, man. You've got a
Yeah.
good business model. You've got a good direction. You're
Mhm.
catching the right wave. So when I say wave, I'm talking about AI. I'm talking
Mhm.
about the fact that you're on that bandwagon, because that's where a lot of them. Do you
Yeah.
remember like how like maybe 4 years ago the attention was on like the metaverse, everything's
Yeah.
metaverse,
Mhm.
and then there was this quick shift, like AI, and
Mhm.
AI just kind of took everything by storm. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I was on the verge of picking up one of those headsets. Like, oh, let me try this thing out. Let me see what this is.
Mhm.
Oculus. But then I shifted straight into AI, like everybody else, because really that's so accessible to people, and people get
Mhm.
it. They understand it. It's so
Yeah.
useful, it's a tool. And the fact that you're, any business that's got that involvement, that has that, and also businesses that aren't necessarily plugging into OpenAI. A lot of people, you know, they want to build a business, $1 billion business, but they're basing it off the fact that they're plugging into something else. If you've got your
Mhm.
own proprietary language model that you're creating that can learn in and of itself, that as an investment opportunity to angel investors, people, or anyone who's got like some sense of like exit later, right? That's
Mhm.
beyond the
Yeah.
recruitment side, because the recruitment thing could be a spin-off, right? So you can
Yes.
go, I could go and invest in your business thinking, okay, like Janal, I want to make sure that you are dedicating a large proportion of the money that I send you into bettering that language and making sure that it has all these different things that it
Mhm.
can do, right?
Yeah.
And then we'll look to, ideally I'd be looking to, like, if I'm being a more involved partner, it will be like, how can I then position this for a sale, right? Sell off the
Mhm.
recruitment one, and then let's now really package up, like, essentially lease
Yeah.
access to the language model itself.
Mhm. No, no, definitely. And then that's where like we want to start off as the recruiting, this thing like matching particularly, but then we want to see the whole funnel. We want to like, from the time they post the job to the time they like, recruit and beyond. We want to see that whole thing, because it's not just like it's not just the experience like the candidate are having, it's even the experience that companies would be having. Let's say some companies have hired a candidate, like how do we make sure that they don't hire the wrong person, and train them more on that. So it's not just like we are looking at holistically just for that matching. We are basically training it more and more to like, hey, can we complete that whole loop to make sure that the next one that is coming in is going to be like the candidate that they don't regret
Yeah, but
hiring.
for me, I get it. You've got a lot of different elements there that are very human, that are, human focused. So you've got AI,
Mhm.
which is, okay, it's a language model. I don't want that to be confused when I say human focused. You've got language models that can make it easier to kind of, I guess, transition, go through that entire process. But at each stage, you're dealing with people, and you have to
Yeah.
verify how things are working. And
Yes.
because of that, it's like you almost need to hit critical mass as fast as possible, so you can
Exactly.
raise as much money to get as many users in the platform, so that the thing
Mhm.
learns fast enough, so that you can then deploy it faster and quicker with
Yes.
businesses, and then also find
Mhm.
other uses for the technology. So if investors, that's definitely something that's interesting to investors. But if it was me, all I can say is,
Mhm.
before I switch to my next guest, I will say, if it was me, I would be marketing. I wouldn't be going out just outreaching one by one. I would be going to town with this, because this is the time when you need to market it, let everybody know what you're doing.
Mhm.
Because it's one of those opportunities where you have, it's a walled garden. It's your own proprietary language model. So
Mhm.
you've got something attractive, but you've got to let people know that it's there, and they won't know it's there. And believe me, one email here and there that comes, 100 emails a day, and like 3 of them being actually read, you want to go beyond that. You want to go
Mhm.
faster and harder and get more people. So do more podcasts just like this. Get as many of you
Yeah.
as you can. Showcase it. Like when you get that MVP ready, like demo it. Have some demos, and of course, I would always market, man. Get a marketing budget ready, get a funnel put together, put it out there. And of course, if you're looking to find the people that already have access to the investors, you give us a shout too. But you might even be able to help us with that. We might have to have a secondary conversation.
Yeah, definitely.
You can actually help us do our job better, which is to build distribution networks.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Happy to do that.
all right, Janelle. Appreciate your time. Thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you. Thank
All
you
right.
for having me. Take care.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. All right. So that was Janelle Shah. Appreciate him taking the time to be on the podcast and sharing his business. And this is what I like to do. I like to really kind of get into the nitty gritty details of like what the business is, what market they're in, and what kind of opportunities you can kind of push through to get access to the capital that you need. So we talked about credit. We talked about accessing, people through either a convertible note or potentially even down a Regulation D506C. But we didn't actually explore that so much because with SaaS companies, for the most part, a convertible note is usually enough. Even a safe note, SAFE, if people aren't familiar with that, safe note, even KISS notes out there. They're very common. Investors who are looking at SaaS businesses, especially if they're at the bleeding edge of technology, like it's AI, you can get away with pretty conservative offers as well. Like you don't have to go 12%, 10%. You can actually go single digit, because I think as long as you've got a nice conversion at the end, if there is a conversion and it's not safe, and you can actually go into some level of ownership, there's a significant discount. So there's a lot of people out there who will actually push forward for those types. So it really is just about getting in front of them. That's your biggest challenge. And I always say it when it comes to raising capital, it's like, you can have a good business model, you can have a good business plan, you can have a good pitch, but and you can have the legals in place, you can use AI technology out there to put together a contract, a convertible note. You can go and spend some money with some lawyers and get yourself a full private placement put together. But this is all just the setup, right? This isn't selling your product to customers. This is really, you've set everything up to sell to an investor. So the last thing you want to do is shoot yourself in the foot and not actually take the next step, which is to actually market to investors, because that's actually how it's done. Because everyone else that you're asking to help you, think about why you're asking them. You're asking them because you know that they've done the work to market to investors and they have the investors. So it's what you should be doing. And you could save yourself a hell of a lot of fees on that. All right, I'm going to bring up my next guest. I can see he's in the studio here. Let me bring him on. Mike James. How you doing, Mike?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? So you've got, I actually haven't, we haven't spoken yet. You've spoken to one of my colleagues, and I'm very, very interested and very keen to hear about your business and see if we can just share some ideas of how you could potentially look to raise some capital and what type of capital you're even looking for in the first instance.
Sure. So my business, I am an entertainer. I do stand-up comedy. I've done that for 30 years. I also am a software engineer. That was what I started out as. So I kind of combine those two things sometimes. In this case, I created a system called Gig Tools. And for what that is for live performers, from public speakers, any presenters, magicians, comedians, again, any kind of, even bands, any live entertainment. One of the problems is managing your schedule primarily, but also managing all your clients and things like that. So a lot of the work I get, for example, is repeat business over the years from different corporate events and that sort of stuff. So this, on the surface of it, it seems like a scheduling and CRM system. And that's essentially what it really is, but it goes quite a bit more in depth than that and really caters specifically to live entertainment, tracking everything from audience demographics to everything else. So that's what I built. Prior to the pandemic, I had built this and kind of put it out there in the wild, and started to develop quite a bit of following on it and a lot of users. During the pandemic, of course, people, stopped subscribing and so forth because there was no work. Nobody could work for a couple of years. So it didn't make sense for people to pay their monthly fee. I took that time to kind of rebuild it and restart it. And I've done that and have not tried to market it or anything since. It's a viable product now, so I would call it an MVP. And there's lots of things we want to add to it, lots of things I want to implement to make it more powerful and more robust. But that's where we're at right now. So it's available. I do have users, and that's kind of where the business is. What I need capital for is, one, right now it's a web-based app, so you can access it on your phone or your computer or anything. It's just fine. But I definitely need to build out some native applications for Android and iOS to get that wrapped up, and also primarily marketing. I have not jumped into the marketing field, and I'm not a marketer by any means. I don't even know most of the terminology for marketing. So I need to bring on some people that can do the marketing. In my discovery of that, I've found, to be honest with you, I have a distaste for marketing, in a large part only because my experience as a performer, I've hired marketing teams for that. It's never worked out well. Marketing teams never have any skin in the game. Yeah, we'll charge you $10,000 for 10,000 leads or whatever it is. Then it's never any good. So I really need to get an in-house team of people that really have a vested interest in proper marketing of this product. There are millions of performers out there, literally millions just in the United States. And not all of them are the right client, but I would say a good 10% of them are very good targets for our potential user base.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, marketing. So your user base, you say, is it to the? Because forgive me, I know you explained it, but I was just trying to. Who is the actual customer? Is it the comedian themselves, or is it like the clubs, I guess, or the infrastructure?
It's the performers themselves, the entertainers themselves. 90%, 99% of entertainers are just.
I said comedian. I meant entertainers.
Right. No, that's fine. 99% of the talent out there is self-managed.
Right.
And there are some places, people that they have big management groups behind them and big talent agencies behind them, and that's fine. And for the most part, those companies do a lot of this work for the independent, for their talent. But like for me, for example, I have several talent agencies. They all use different systems. They all do different things. In the meantime, I'm responsible to manage my own schedule. They'll tell me when things are, what's going on, and they'll live and do some of the marketing for my shows, but they don't manage my schedule for me. They don't for example, a lot of the stuff I do is independent. I don't go through it's not work that comes through a talent agency. It's work that I have to get on my own. If I relied on booking management or a talent agency, I wouldn't get half the work I get. Okay. So a lot of it is me going out there. So that's another thing this tool does. It helps you manage some of your marketing as far as sending out automated emails and things like that to past clients and so forth.
Okay, so it's like a diet CRM, but with a specific purpose.
Exactly.
Yeah, I get it. So it's like, I think like that kind of thing is like, okay, well, if you were to consider, one of the things that I'm a big believer of is influencer marketing, or the other concept, which is it's built off the same premise, which is to tap into somebody that or a person, a place, or a thing that already has access to the customers that you want. And probably one of the easiest ways, well, you mentioned the agencies out there. Well, they don't have everyone, but they have a large proportion of the people that they could instantly deploy your product to, right? So is there a way that you could work your platform to kind of work also with the talent agencies? Like, can it be like the sidecar to the motorbike kind of situation where, because if you can make that case, then you could probably, offer it for free, but the benefit to you is that you get access to a larger user base and you get a whole boatload of people to be working on this, to be using this app. And of course, I think how do you make money? Is it a monthly subscription fee, or is it like transaction based? Is it based on certain volume?
It's just subscription based. And okay. I in my plan, there are a couple levels of subscription, just 2 or 3 of them. In fact, the base one is free entirely, and it's just to get people on board and using the system. If you want to utilize automated emails and things, of course, that costs money on the back end as well. So it kind of increases from that. Also, if you want access to the big database of clients and things that I already have, that would be an additional cost. But it's a monthly subscription is the model that I've set it up for. So to answer your question, as far as talent agencies, so for me, I actually book a lot of other talent myself, and I use this tool to do it. I keep track of all that through this tool. I can set up different acts and different performers through the tool myself within the contacts, and it automatically emails them to remind them, hey, you're booked for this show. Are you available for this one? And all that
Don't
stuff.
forget. Yeah.
So it works really well for all of that. I have considered, in fact, it's been requested of me from larger agencies. Can you make this work for us where we just manage all of our stuff? And I have not done that because the specific use case for this product is for the independent performer. A lot of independent performers also book others, which is fine, but not on a large scale. And again, the reason for that is there are other products out there for large agencies. There are talent agencies software systems out there that exist. I don't want to try to compete with them. To be honest, I don't think any of them are very good, but also it's a big, huge hurdle to overcome to try to surpass them. I found a niche where this was a real need for people, so I wanted to fill that need.
Okay. Found the problem, found the solution.
Yeah.
So just go back to you again, like just before we go into like some of the more some of the other kind of like strategies I'm just thinking of as you're talking. I'm like, as you're speaking, I'm like, my brain's just kind of going, how would I sell it? If it was my business, how would I get other people to use this thing? And I have some experience with software. Like I have my own software business, a website. It's a web app, and it has we have an iPhone app and an Android app, neither of which work very well because it's a monumental headache to get software right, man. It's hard.
It is.
Like,
it is, right?
You said, so you were an engineer and then you had this and a comedian. So
right.
and engineers and my phone's just cancel that. So you're an engineer and a comedian,
right.
And through that process, an engineer. When you say engineer, are you like a software developer engineer or?
Yeah, I'm a software engineer. So yeah, I worked as a software developer for Microsoft for many years. Went out on my own, created my own company, and sold that. But yeah, I do software development.
Okay, cool. And so you're essentially building this yourself. Built it yourself.
I did. I built it myself. Yes.
Okay. So what and you're at MVP level. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And you're going to get this sold. So, okay, as far as their funding needs, like how much are you looking for?
Well, I'm looking for 500,000. In my estimate for both the building out the rest of the system as it exists, the back end, the additional functions and features core to the system would cost some money. Additionally to that would be building out the native applications for mobile. And then primarily it's the marketing I want to get done. I want to get a lot of marketing out there and become the standard that everybody uses. There's just not a lot available for users out there right now. And I think that's kind of my priority. The number we came up with was, I don't have it. I think it was $380,000. So knowing software development and knowing business enough to know that that's our number. So that's not enough.
What's the rule of thumb? Double it, then double it again. Like the length of time, including the amount it costs, double it, then double it again. I mean, that's generally how it goes. And it's not because the developer, people think that's because the developers are bad, or it's not. It's because people a lot of the time it's because as the brainchild of it, you constantly start making changes once you start seeing it come to life. So
right. People call it scope creep or whatever, but that's exactly true. There's so many more things that can happen. You're right. If I were to say I need my software to do X, Y, and Z, I can give you a pretty good estimate how long it'll take to do that. But that will never be the answer. The answer is no, it needs to do W, X, Y, and Z before it's done, and that W ended up being twice the estimate.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah, I get it. And so, okay, if you're going to go for the 500, and that's what you need, you think, to get yourself in the right place, and you want to hire in-house people, and we could talk about marketing strategies as well in just a minute, because I mean, we're in the business of capital raising, but we still have to win clients, so we go through marketing as well, and it's like, marketing it's the lifeblood of every business, right? If you're not selling, if you're not getting the word out there, you're not going to make any money. No one's going to buy you. You're selling, you're trying to sell in a vacuum. It's not going to happen.
Sure.
So marketing is super important, and we do have so much, experience. And it's not because we're sort of tooting our own horn. Just it's so much experience because so many things have gone wrong for so many different times. You've like different campaigns, influencer marketing campaigns that just went haywire. Like, it can be really, really difficult just to get it right. And especially when, a niche audience is a good audience, right? But then it's like, how do you get to them? What's the right message? Like, do you want to be like bludgeoning them with ads so that they see the opportunity at face value in an ad that floats around their social media? Or do you want it whispered in their ear through someone that they know, like, and trust, right? Like, do you want other entertainers to pick it up and actually promote it within their own circle so that you have this kind of viral effect slowly through word of mouth? You're leveraging word of mouth to make it happen. And, I'm a big believer of that, like the selling through other people, as I mentioned earlier. And I think that's one of the fastest routes to market, even when it comes to capital raising. Works the same way. Like, we can sit here and talk about running campaigns and running ads. That's the bread and butter for like getting access to capital, just to market it to investors, people who are known to be investors, so that they see it and that they consider it and that they then request more information, and then they have a conversation, and then they consider it again, and then they look at their assets and they allocate capital. Like, it's a very standardized process. It's the same process that you would expect in any other sales environment. You have to get the info over, and it's got to be enticing. But beyond that, how do you speed up the process, right? Because that's still a process. You have a time horizon between when someone sees it and when someone gets it. But like, to speed up the process is when you tap into people that already have access to the investors that you want. And of course, to do that, you have to then look for the type of people who would have the type of investors that would invest in your type of opportunity. So real estate investors won't necessarily not be the one, because they're normally looking for that big insurance policy being the real estate itself. But yeah, so like $500,000 though, that's not a huge amount of money.
No, I understand. And in fact, some people I've talked to already kind of declined interest, only in the sense that that's not enough. That's not the volume that we like to work in. And I get it. It'd be easy to say, well, okay, then let's go for 2 million, and I can just use more marketing. But honestly, I don't think it'll take that much to get a foothold to get moving. If somebody were interested in this at that level and said, I want a bigger piece of the pie and have more money, then that's fine. But I don't know that, because we're not really strongly revenue generating yet, that's even reasonable.
But you are generating revenue, right? You are.
Yeah, we are generating some revenue.
Blood, as they say.
Yeah. But and I was doing much better before the pandemic, but since then I've structured this into its own corporation. It's it's set up as a real company, and before it was just a word of mouth. Hey, I built this tool, and it kind of spread out. And so rebuilding it has been a little bit of a different effort. But anyway.
Okay. Well, I mean, you said corporation, C Corp?
It's a LLC.
LLC. Okay. Well, actually, I should have said this to the other guy that was just on as well. If you're going to go convertible note and it's software based, I'd always recommend going C Corp, just because of the nature of the investors that get involved, because of the way they like to chop and change a deal later on, especially when it comes to, if you start to scale up and you get some more visibility on it, and you maybe start attracting bigger, the whale type investors, or institutional, like low level VC maybe. And institutional doesn't have to mean multiple millions. There are institutional investors, as in, small private equity, boutique private equity, finance houses that will jump in on deals that, they have criteria like, oh, we'll come in at 250K, provided you're on road to a Series A. Like, you may not want $1 million, 2 million just yet. You only need 250 to 500,000, but you're on the way. Like, we can see this scaling up. So we'll come in and we'll kind of help you on that way, on that journey, because their objective is to buy in low, sell high, right?
Sure, absolutely. And again, I'm totally open to for me, just being a common sense person and having an engineer's brain. I look at the project. I figure this is what will take to get us over the hump of, okay, now we've got enough user base, we've got positive revenue coming in, everything's working fine. To me, that's where that number comes from. If you're looking down the road of how to better leverage this for future investment and that sort of stuff, that's something I'm unfamiliar with, so I don't know. That's like rely on people like you to help understand that.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of, if you don't know it, it's like they're all saying that it's common sense. So if it's not common, how can it be? It has to be, for it to be common sense, it has to be common, right? So
yeah, right.
Yeah, you've got to kind of know the lay of the land. But then there's so many different strategies, and that's the thing about like capital raising. Don't forget, like Wall Street was built on this thing, right? Like, and there's so many different ways to slice this cake. So it's really like a question of which direction do you want to go. Like also geographically, like, where are you? Like some people could get away with like, oh, I'm just going to attend accelerators. I want to pay like a low monthly fee. But if you like, where are you based, may I ask? Where
Phoenix, Arizona.
Phoenix, Arizona. So accelerators there. I mean, you'll have them dotted around, like even co-working places.
Right.
Are kind of like pseudo accelerators now, incubators. Like they try and attract as many not angels, but they say that there are angel investors there, but really they kind of dub every entrepreneur that works under the facility as an angel. Because if they invest in themselves, they'll probably invest in something else. Like, it's like you have to kind of like, take it with a pinch of salt. But I would always say, if you can get to places where you can leverage a network, where you can kind of like be shoulder to shoulder with people and you can present, it's good, because it's you're doing it for sweat equity. You're just having conversations like we're having right now, and you can get it. But the more proactive approach would be to incorporate correctly. Like you've got yourself an LLC. You could go for a convertible note, as opposed to a full private placement or a safe note, as I mentioned in the previous conversation I was just having. As long as your deal terms are interesting and you can attract the investors, that's the mechanism that I would probably want to use to get 500 grand. But you might be surprised to know that you can actually get 500 grand just from the banks in the form of like business credit cards,
right,
and business lines of credit. A combination of both, and maybe even a personal line. But you can actually do it where the money is actually revolving for the most part. So it's there. You pay it, you use it, you make money on it, you pay it down. It's still there for you, where you haven't had to give up any equity.
Right.
There is also that. Have you considered that too?
I have not. A lot of this is assumption based. So I would assume with the bank, that's a big risk for them. Without, specific investors can see the vision in the future, and that, okay, this is, we're part of this. We're partnering with you in this to make this all happen. With a bank, I feel like that's much more of a, just we're completely hands off and don't care. Just, here's the money as long as we get our interest. But it's too big of a risk for them because they have no confidence that, this is going to be something that makes money and we'll be able to repay this loan properly.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
but maybe that's wrong. I don't know.
Well, think about it like this. Banks, they'll look at credit, right? They're basing all their decisions on credit and applications. Whereas people, they'll base it on character, right? So they're going to learn a bit more about you as the owner and founder, the vision. And then the plus one is that you've actually built it. You have a skill set that is relevant to the business. Like you can actually keep on building it out, so they know that it can be bootstrapped and that they could get involved, and they have the right people involved. The person who owns it is also the person that could work on it too. It's not like, well, if there's no developers, the business is dead in the water. Like it's the brainchild and the person that can work on it and keep tinkering to make it better. If you notice, some of the biggest software companies out there, that's what made them successful. It's because that person was backable. they were bankable. They were an asset in and of themselves. So if what you have, and we haven't seen it, but I'm assuming it's good, it works, MVP, you said you're using it yourself right now for a live environment, it's transacting. If it's doing all that, then, you've already, that to an investor, that's generally going to be interesting. So I'm not saying you have to go, or I'm not forcefully recommending going down the credit route, although I think you should, because I think every startup founder, if they can access credit, they certainly should. And by the way, I don't know what your credit score is, but even if your credit score was not so great, your credit profile, you can always partner with someone else that does have a good credit profile. So they can get involved with your investment without actually having 500 grand. They can just go and get 500 grand worth of credit, allocate it to your business. Worst case scenarios, they're going to be dealing with paying it down if you do a runner, or the best case scenario is you're going to use it. It's going to be deployed. It's going to execute. It's going to work well. That money is going to then pay down the debt, and it's going to open up credit again as it pays it down. So now you've got this rotation. So you've actually got, and of course, to the person that gave you the credit cards, they actually haven't risked any personal money, cash on account. They've just risked their credit profile. And that's only to say, if they let it become delinquent, like if you stop paying it and you notified them, then they could have stopped paying it down themselves and that chalked it up to the risk that they took. But so, technically they didn't take much, because once they pay it down, they still have access to the credit too. So it's their credit, right? So it's like there's lots of different ways, like I say, that you can get people to kind of get involved, and it's all about just either doing them all or just picking one, picking which is the one that I'm most comfortable going for right now. Am I better off finding a group of people to network with and actually give them the opportunity to come in with credit, because I only need credit cards. I don't actually need a facility. So I don't need someone to come in and buy me a building. So that's where you need cash on account, right? So maybe I could go with 250 grand worth of credit cards, because most of my purchases are online. They're going to be ad spend requirements. So I can use credit cards for those things. And we can actually get to sort of critical mass just on that kind of revolving credit alone. And if we ever need cash in an account, maybe we could switch to maybe $100,000 to $200,000 in business lines of credit where money is actually deposited in your bank account. So now you've got, cash that you can actually deploy and pay wages with and salaries with. Although you can actually do that with credit cards too, because you can pull money off them. There's a few different nifty ways you can do that. But that is an option because you're within that kind of range, right? You say you need 500, but you were talking about 360 being somewhere where an area that you could, you get, if 500 is where your sort of max was there, 360 is doable. You can get started with 20K. With 30K, with 50K, as long as you have the breathing room, the runway, you can start taking steps to actually get into a better position, which would then give you the ability to open up more interest from investors who can come in then with a convertible note to take over, right? Because you can do the transition, you can switch from the credit to the equity, which is, well, a convertible note is still a loan, but the idea is that it converts to equity at some point, right? Or they have an option to, at least, right? So that's what I would, that's where my mind's going.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's something I definitely should look at. Again, the initial investment is only to get me to the point. The minimal for initial investment, say it was 20 or 30K, even, as long as I could be comfortable enough to know that, okay, I can, through that, I can get enough marketing expertise somehow to leverage that money for proper marketing to get to the point of, okay, now we're self-sustaining. The revenue is enough to pay down the loan. The revenue is enough to move forward. The revenue is enough, because my fear would be that I'm 30K behind as far as the loan goes. But that wasn't enough to get me over the hump. So, and that in addition to my own marketing skills are not enough to get me over the hump where I'm drawing enough revenue to even pay back the 30K.
Okay.
So you're right. I need to figure out how to do that. And again, I guess one of the biggest struggles I have right now is trying to find a marketing solution that will work. Again, I'm not trying to dismiss all people in all marketing, but my limited experience of 10 or 15 marketing agencies they have completely stolen money. They've never resulted in benefit at the end. And you might be saying, well, how'd you fall for that so many times? Well, every time it's been different. Tried different approaches. I've tried, gone through seminars on them and everything else, trying to figure out how can I really find people to do this? It's not something I want to be doing. But every time I have found somebody else to do it, here's $10,000, $15,000. And at the end of the day, I didn't get anything from that. And literally, I did better on my own.
Agencies are, it's like you're paying for a service, right? So then you're dealing with people behind the brand, right? And ultimately, it's like, what's their mission? Like, if it's going to be just to, I've used agencies for my own projects before we effectively became one. It's like, I'll do it yourself.
Yeah.
It's like, I do it better myself, so I'm going to make my own agency about it. But when I've used agencies in the past, you can spend a hell of a lot of money on setup fees, then you have the monthly management fees, and then you have the money that goes into the ad spend itself. So before you know it, you could be, blowing through 15 grand a week, 15 grand, on the lower, on the high end. I wouldn't even say that's high these days, but back then it was. But you can spend a hell of a lot of money, and of course, like what kind of ads were these? Were these like Meta, Facebook, and Instagram ads, or Google ads?
Over the years, it's been everything. It's been I've had people developing content for Instagram, all that. It was Facebook ads, just Google ad stuff. There's been, I think, just about every combination of things.
Yeah, well, ads work, but they need money.
Right, they do, but they have to be set up. They have to be set up correctly. They have to be, there has to be certain calls to action and all that stuff. And I get the idea of all that, but I'd get traffic. Don't get me wrong. I remember there was one of the companies I dealt with, it's a marketing company, and their whole retort to me back when I said, look, this isn't converting to I need to stop doing this. I'm not getting anything out of it. And, they're saying, well, that's not true. Your web traffic has gone up, 500%. But that doesn't, my bank account hasn't gone up a nickel. I don't care if anybody visits my website. I honestly don't. Who cares if somebody visits my website? I need somebody to purchase my product. Now, if visiting my website is the way for them to do that, great. If seeing a sticker on my car on the freeway is the way to do it, great. Whatever. I just need people to buy the product. I don't care how much traffic I get, especially when that traffic does not translate to sales.
Yeah, but it's part of as much as you want to dismiss it, it's part of the process.
I totally get it.
It's a performance indicator, right?
I totally understand that. But if none of them convert to sales, it's meaningless. It's not useful for anything.
Yeah. Well, there's arguments. There's so many arguments. I get it. I understand I know where your head's at, and I've been on that side.
At the end of the day, I'm negative $15,000.
Yeah.
The business is for making money, not for getting exposure.
Right. But so let's take the personal situation out of it, and let's look at like the numbers. Like when you do that, you didn't get sales, but you got attention. So then there's an argument for attention, and there's the fact that you're popping up on people's radar. What's the Google average? Is it 11 touch points within 7 days, or is it the other way around? 7 touch points in 11 days? I'm not sure. But the point is that their average across their massive swarm of data is that if you can achieve those numbers, it takes that many times for someone to actually go ahead and click or buy into something, right? And it's like, okay, but then that and you're basically fleecing me, or even the agencies, because the agencies they have their management fees, right? They don't get paid from Google that's your ad spend. So it's like, to get those kind of numbers, you're having to pay so much money, like you're having to pay so much more to achieve that. And then you're looking at like the cost of like the ROI, the return on your ad spend, right? So the ROAS, as it's referred to, like how much is the thing that you're trying to sell? Like, what's the subscription? You said the minimum is free, and you're not getting any sort of hits on that. It's like how much money can you take in? What's your opportunity cost?
Right. So the subscription model I have right now is $8 a month for kind of a just normal independent thing. If you do much higher volume and need more functionality, it's $15 a month.
Were you getting users when you from the traffic?
But no, that's the problem. I wasn't getting users from the traffic. and let me clarify on that, by the way. I was getting a ton of traffic, but it wasn't usable lead. They weren't, first of all, they weren't converting to leads, really, most of them. But I noticed the traffic too was just, their whole goal was to get me traffic, not to get me sales. And as a result, I'd get people that went to my website because they're thinking, oh, I get to see a funny comedy bit. Well, that's not what the website is at all. But that's what they would, in other words, if I were to tell you, look, I can get you 100,000 views on your website, and then those views all come from people that have no interest in your business at all. That's not
you can bait and click people into it. Yeah.
And that's exactly what was happening. It was just It was just a lot of traffic, but there's nothing there to hold on to. There's,
I get it. Okay.
Well, the people that the other way, website, there was like 3% that went to took the next action beyond the homepage.
Well, the other way is affiliate marketing. Have you looked at that?
No.
Affiliate marketing is like what I talk about when I refer to that process of finding people that already have access to the customers that you want. That's essentially what you're leveraging when you're going the affiliate marketing model. And you have a software platform, and software is nimble. It's nimble. You got a lower price point. People, it's acceptable. So it's not enterprise level is what I'm saying. So it can work well with a pretty well built affiliate network. I mean, for instance, but I'm not referring to going to those affiliate networking marketplaces though, because they exist. And if you type it in Google, you may find yourself landing on one of those. They exist and they work. I mean, they do work for some products, and I think it's definitely worth being listed there, because you'll find affiliates that are looking around for niche products, because their affiliates themselves are generally looking for niche products that can set themselves apart from everyone else, because everyone's kind of going for the top products out there that are more generalized, or those generally there's a lot of products out there that are top tier products that have attracted a ton of affiliate marketers. So they've done a really great job at like capturing the marketplace, right? And getting these. So it's like, you don't want to kind of just join the rat race. So the mindset of the affiliate marketer is to find something that is a bit more niche, right? That is a bit more that will set them apart, where they can use their network of pre-existing. Sometimes it's display pages where they know that they can put products where they have certain type of interest, or sometimes it's going through the affiliate marketing model through influencers. And you're in the entertainment business, influencers might be the way to go, because influencers are just people that have the right kind of demographic in their audience. That could be a way to do it. My platform, you should check it out. You probably put your engineer mind on when you look at it. Distrolist.app. We actually have an influencer marketing platform. That's why I know a little bit about this. An influencer marketing platform where we have over 250,000 influencers across Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok on there. And we pay for that dearly. We pay through multiple APIs to have that in there. And we're in beta because it's glitchy. And so we had it's priced at $1 a day. $1 a month right now. $1 a day, $1 a month right now. And I mean, that's just to stop the robots from joining, right? So that's just so that someone has to put a credit card on to get in there, right? Because as soon as I actually made it just name and email, it was just inundated with bots that were just
right. Yeah, I've experienced that too.
Yeah, ransacking my whole thing. But yeah, no, it's certainly a way for you to go and find people that might have the artists, entertainers and artists in their audience base that have the ability to kind of promote your offer. So you can go the affiliate road, right? Or you could go the pay up front, pay them their like kind of the agency fee, right? You pay them up front. But the difference is you're not paying for traffic now. You're paying someone based on the fact that, well, you have a ton of entertainers that follow you. I can see that in your audience demographics, the analytics that I can pull up. And because of that, when you tell me it's $1,000 to do a shout out, 3 shout outs for the week or something, maybe I might be more inclined to pay you that money because you can probably get me a result. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's where that kind of works. And then I'm just thinking that could be a way that you could go from a marketing perspective. I mean, because $500,000 will get you there. You don't need a lot to go down that road, And as far as raising that capital, a convertible note with a decent offer, like how much would you be giving up? Like how much would you be willing to give up on your put it this way. If you got that kind of money, how successful do you think you would be? Like what kind of return would you offer someone on a convertible note?
Well, you mean as far as equity, or equity share, or
Like,
you
like
mean
a loan repayment, like a 7%,
loan repayment?
12% return? Like what would it be? Like
Yeah,
if you
I would say 10 to 12%.
Okay, 10 to 12%. How long would you need? Would it be a 1 year? Would it be a 2-year note? How long would the note be?
I would say 2 years,
2
actually.
years. And so if someone gave you 500 grand at 2 years at 10%, for instance, per year, you're expecting to pay that 500 grand back as principal repayment on the not the 10th year, I mean the second year, or at the maturity date. And so then the question is do you think you'd be able to pay that money back at that point? Or would someone be happy and not hate in your guts if they had to convert to equity?
Right. That makes sense. And I don't know. I would think I'd be able to pay that back, but and I hadn't really thought of that as a consideration. I was assuming that moving forward with any kind of investment would be the return would be equity. In which case, even then, I have to try to figure out what's the value of the company. What is $500,000 worth in this company?
Well, convertible notes work like this. So I'll give you a headliner. In fact, I'll put it up here so people can see it. So, and you'll be able to see it too. If I type this up here. So it could be like, say 10% APR, and it would be 2-year and then 20. There you go. I'm going to put this on the screen right now. If it works. There you go. Do you see that?
Yep.
Okay. So everyone else can see it too. So what this means is 10% per year for the 2 years. It would be payable, that 10% per year. So 20% would be payable on the second year on the maturity date, but so would the principal payment, right? But if they convert to equity, there'd be a 20% discount. And this is an example. You could put 10%, 20%, 30%, 50%. A 20% discount on the shares when it's valued at that second year. You're not valuing it now. You're deferring it to 2 years from now. So at that second year, then you go, you get this thing valued, and whatever shares are available, they can then either convert that money that they had in and pick up those shares with that discount, so they get more than everybody else would. So they'd be in a good position. And that's a great place to be if your company's scaling up, right? Because now you've converted to equity, more money's coming into the business, more users are coming into the business, and my valuation per share is going through the roof. And the idea is to sell out at some point, right? As an investor, remember the main reason an investor wants to get involved, right? So they can park $5 with you today to come back a week later and pick up 10, right? That's the whole point.
Sure. Yep.
Yeah. So, and then everything else after that is a justification. Like, oh, it's a CRM, but it's specific to, entertainers. And it was built by a guy. The story of the guy is an engineer, but also a comedian. So he's connected to the industry. And so there's a real pain point that he discussed. So all of that's just to make the friends around the table at the dinner table to think that it was a good investment, a wise investment opportunity, and it was a justified one. And we really thought it through. But really, the thing that got their attention was 10%, 2 years, money up.
Yeah. I get it. Yeah.
Yeah. That's normally the way to go, man. All right. Well, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Before I let you go, I was asking, do you have any specific questions that you want to ask me that I can maybe assist you with that I haven't covered already?
No, you answered more than I would have thought to ask, actually. I'm just trying to muddle my way through all of this and figure out, what I need to do next. I think, I don't have any other questions. Thanks for having me on, though.
Appreciate it, man. If you need any help, like we have programs and stuff, like we can help you coach you through it. But of course, you know, you can go ahead and do this yourself. Like that's the main reason I do this podcast like this, because a lot of people come to us, oh, you know, there's different prices for different levels of involvement, right? There's always upfront fees because of the time delay between money, you know, raised and money becoming available. So it's like, but capital raising can be done yourself. There's so many people out there that did do it themselves, and so you just kind of follow the same roadmap, the same recipe, the same strategy that companies like us follow. The only difference is that we've been doing it longer, can do it faster, but that doesn't mean you can't do it yourself. And if you've already got as far as building your product, and you've already got as far as like testing it and it's viable and it's making money, just not enough money, then you can go and show that. You just got to be able to demo that to the right people. And to be honest with you, your customers can become your investors. So even if you did go the credit card route and pick up some money, 20, 30 grand, and spent that on influencers to pick up other entertainers, good news is any of those entertainers that are prominent, you know, could certainly become investors into the opportunity, into your business as well. And that would be probably even more valuable than your typical run-of-the-mill angel investor.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, appreciate you coming on. Thank you very much for your time. And look, man, we'll check in with you down the road and see how you're doing.
All right. I appreciate it. Thanks again.
Very welcome. All right. So yeah, I guess that's going to pretty much wrap up the show. I'm just going to summarize by saying when it comes to this sort of thing, as I was saying there, you know, it's to raise money, it's just like any other kind of selling. You just have to follow a sequence of steps. And in America, many other countries, there are rules that you have to abide by, but any business owner can go ahead and get that tin cup and go and ask people for money. You just have to follow some rules, and there's some steps that you have to take to be able to do that in different ways. For example, like I said, you know, you can go out and get a convertible note and you can start pitching that to people, or you can go the step up, which is the private placement road, where you end up having to pay private placement and securities attorneys to put together, your private placements, or putting your Reg D 506C placement together, where you can then actually start raising significant amounts of money, because you're essentially building a fund. Remember that bucket that we talked about at the beginning? That becomes a fund, and that stipulates that you can put 50 million in that bucket of money. And that bucket of money is essentially any bank account. It's a bank account that's got all these contracts that are wrapped around it that designate it as a fund. And so that's what a private placement essentially is. And when you do that, you can raise money. But the question always is, how do you go ahead and raise it? And so that's what we like to discuss here. There's paid for options, pay to play options, there's pay on performance options out there, there's do it yourself options. So it's good to just keep exploring them, keep exploring the strategies. And that's what we're trying to do here in every one of these episodes. So tune in next time where we get to speak to some other business owners and entrepreneurs and find out what they're doing to raise capital, what we can do to provide some advice and guidance, if anything, and any other ways in which we can structure things to make them more enticing. Like we talked about convertible notes there that had essentially a sales tag, right? Like that one, this is the offer. This is this is what the offer is. Everything after that is the unique things about your business. The first thing that investors want to know is, what are they going to get from it? All right. With that said, I'll see you in the next episode.